Olá.
Meeting back to order. And for a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance.
Go right on ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Her voice you just heard is a Topeka High student. I'm going to turn it over to her to introduce herself. We've seen her all over Twitter from the Second Gentleman's Visit, and she'll share who her mother is since all of the invitees are students of staff.
I'm Jada Fulton. I'm a senior at Topeka High School, and I'm the daughter of Kristen Miller.
And Jada, can you share what sports you're in and what you plan to do after high school?
I currently manage volleyball, play basketball. I'm on the swim team, and I'm involved in a lot of clubs and organizations at Topeka High. And after high school, I'm kind of debating between Clark Atlanta University and Langston University to major in communications.
So she's just amazing. We're going to turn it over to the board.
Thank you.
Oh, and Jada left. Jada, come back. They have questions for you. You just kind of gave the appetizer. So Ms. Fulton, if you're still there, come on back on. Okay, now board members are going to ask a question or two, then we can see that you're busy, probably at a Topeka High event, it looks like. So we're going to let you go in a moment.
Okay.
That's what I was going to ask, Jada.
Dr. Mickelson.
Are you at Hummer?
No, I'm currently at Baser Linwood High School, and we have a volleyball game.
Oh,
Yeah.
How's the team doing? How's the team doing?
Oh, they're 1-2 right now, but we're gonna hopefully come home with a win tonight. So that's the plan.
What will you do with a communications degree? What do you want to do once you graduate college?
I don't know. I've always been a really social person, and so just like speaking for people that are a little like more afraid to speak for themselves has always been fun for me. So just being able to hear people speak and then kind of taking what they say and using that to stand up for them. So I don't really know exactly what I want to do yet, but I know that speaking for people that are scared to speak for themselves has always been something that I enjoyed.
That'd be great.
Anyone else?
You know she has a game. All right, we know you have a game, so we'll let you get back to the game. You are just amazing. Thank you for joining us tonight, Ms. Fulton.
Thank you so much.
The next item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the agenda as presented.
It's been moved that we adopt the agenda. Second. Mrs. Melanie Stewart Campbell, second. Any questions? Hearing none, we're ready for the vote.
Vote is open. Reverend Williams, you want to vote by hand?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna vote by hand. Something happened here on my computer. I got a bunch of,
All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
what that is. Okay. This time, next item on the agenda is public hearings. First public hearing is to adopt the budget.
No one here at this time for the public hearing?
Okay.
So Ms. Lister, can you guide in the very next step?
We do have a patron.
No
Oh, not this, no? No. Oh,
public comments. This is the hearing. If anyone is here to speak to the budget,
We're going to repeat that one more time. If anyone is here to speak for the budget hearing, this is the time to come forward for the budget hearing. Doesn't appear that there's anyone here to speak on the budget hearing. I'll turn it over to Ms. Lister to guide to the next step.
so are we ready to close that hearing?
I believe so. Do we need a motion to close that, Ms. Cope?
This is Mr. Minky's show. I apologize. I wasn't prepared to answer that question. So typically we just have the hearing and then if any action items, I believe they're listed, but I will let Mr. Minky speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Mickey, for coming forward and taking the microphone and take it from here.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
Is this on?
Yes.
All right. Well, finally, we've made it here. It's been a little different year with revenue neutral. Bringing the budget. We're a little bit later than we normally are. This year, we have a new team member, of course, myself, the Director of Finance, Shawnette Mansfield, Director of Budget and Grant Accounting. I'd like to introduce this year Miss Angela Dean, who works in our office, works with Shawnette as her administrative assistant. And Miss Angela has recently completed her accounting degree, and we're very proud of her. And she helped us this year. She did all the prior year cost analysis for us, and she did a heck of a job. And despite her accounting degree being from Emporia State, I think she's going to be a long-term asset for Topeka Public School. You know, I'll try to instill some of my finance and economic knowledge from Washburn University to Angela, and she's a talker, so you don't want me to turn her loose on you guys. But she did a great job on the cost analysis for the prior years for us, and I am really excited because these budgets have a lot of moving parts, and Miss Mansfield and I, this is our 6th. So we're not getting younger. So we need some smart, bright young people. And Angela is certainly that person. And I can tell you and believe this when I say it. And I told her, and I know she don't believe it yet. I said, there's going to be a day when you are capable of doing this budget, Angela Dean, and she doesn't believe me. She's just so scared. But she will be able to do this someday. I promise you, she'll be standing here and Shawnette and I will not be. But I hope that's a while from now. So yeah, the first hearing is the adoption. So with no public comments, I would just ask that you move this to an action item and you would adopt the 2022 budget as published in the Capitol Journal and the Topeka Metro News a week ago, Saturday, I believe it was. And then right behind this is another, the hearing. Again, it's kind of different this year with that revenue neutral piece. But again, just ask that you would review and adopt that into the 2022 budget as presented. Does anybody have any questions for my team?
Ms. Bowley.
I basically have just a statement. I just wanted to thank you and your team for always answering any questions that I have and helping me understand this budget. It's, like you say, it has a lot of moving parts, and I just want to thank you for all the work that you put into it. And I appreciate you always responding to my emails or my phone calls and even meeting with me when I'm struggling with it. So I really appreciate that, helping me understand
We're always happy to do that.
all the moving parts of this budget. It's tremendously complicated.
It is. It really is.
All right. So I guess, go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you. This looks like a lot of work, and I'm grateful that you know how to do all this. My burning question is the summary of total expenditures by function. Can you explain what the difference is between instruction and student support services and instructional support services?
Right.
Thank you.
And I included a guide. There should be a coding guide, coding expenses in the complete budget document, but instructional expenses, typically you would think of as those teacher expenses, and those support services like media would be something that functionally would be in that expense category. But instructionally in that 1100 series would be things that go on inside the classroom.
Mhm. Okay, so
Yeah.
teacher salaries and
Absolutely. Everything that it takes to outfit a classroom. And that's people, resources,
tables.
the lights,
Mhm.
that it takes.
Okay,
Yep.
Thank you.
I will, and that's a great question, Ms. Campbell, and I will, when you're looking at these summaries, keep in mind this year, particularly when you get to the sources and uses of funds, and even that code 99, you'll see, and looking at a lot of graphs, you're going to see those instructional expenses really skyrocket. And I promise you, that's not because state aid is going up, because if you look at the enrollment summary page, you'll see where we still have some problems in that area. But really, the increased resources are those federal revenues, and there's about 77 million that Ms. Mansfield dropped in Code 7. That's all CARES, about 18.6 million ESSER 2. And then about another 42 million in ESSER 3. So those are our CARES ESSER dollars, that are designed for that learning loss over the next 3 years.
You have a comment, Ms. Bowley? I was getting ready to ask that question. That would be okay. This time we entertain a motion to adopt 5.1 and 5.2 as action items for this evening.
So we need to make a motion to change this to an action item first.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, and I so move.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a section?
And that's 5.1 and 5.2.
Correct.
I have a question. Do we need to have,
Let's get a second first. Okay, it's been moving second. Now discuss it. Mr. Munoz.
My question is, do we need to have two separate, Ms. Lister, do we need to have two separate hearings, one for the budget and one for the revenue neutral rate, or is it both together?
Both together, no one.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, ready for the vote.
To be clear, the vote is, we'll have to do it by hand, but there is no.
I would
action item
vote on
yet.
each of those individually.
Individually,
I would
right,
vote
when
on
it's
those.
an action item, but we're moving them now.
Okay,
That's all we're doing, asking for them to put them as an action.
thank
Then
you.
we'll vote on them.
Correct.
So everyone is in agreement for. So then we'll have first. And we're gonna have to do this by hand, the action items. So the first one will be to approve the budget. I need a motion.
But that's at the end, at action items. So we happen to vote on them now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
I second that.
Then it's moving second that we approve the budget as printed in the Topeka Capital Journal. Any discussion? Ready for the vote?
Okay. We'll have to vote by hand. All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Then I'm ready for a motion for the revenue neutral rate item.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the revenue neutral rate as published in the public newspaper.
Is there a second? Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, ready for the vote?
Ready for the vote? All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good job, team.
Thank you, Mr. Minky and team. You all are exceptional.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, school highlights, Dr. Anderson.
And I rushed to highlight Mr. Minky and his team, but they truly are exceptional. And we just thank them for the many hours they put into the budget. All right, so now we're going to jump into some other highlights that we have. So this evening, we are very excited. We have several items that have occurred most recently, starting with Walmart. Before we start, some students made a little video and just to thank Walmart today. So we have some photos, and then we're going to introduce our friends from Walmart and share with you about a little bit about their donation. We'll start the video now.
Hello, Ottawa Walmart. I'm Dr. Tiffany Anderson, the superintendent of Topeka Public Schools, here to thank you on behalf of the Topeka Public Schools School Board, the staff, students, and parents. You gave over $200,000 in PPE equipment, which allows our students to learn safely, play safely, and be safe in our community. So thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Pomeroy, principal of Jardine Elementary, to tell you how much of an impact this makes. Thank you so much for investing in our scholars.
Hi, good morning. I'm Angela Pomeroy, and I am the principal at Jardine Elementary School in Topeka Public Schools. And I just wanted to say, on behalf of Topeka Public Schools and all of our students, scholars, and staff, a huge thank you to Walmart for their generous donation of PPE. So hearing that they have donated masks and hand sanitizer for our schools is going to have such an impact on our students and staff and helping keep us safe while we're back in school during these times. Thank you again, Walmart. We appreciate everything that you're doing for public schools and for TPS.
So this is the Ottawa Walmart, and Ottawa Walmart chose Topeka, Kansas, Topeka Public Schools to make this generous donation. And so we're excited not only about the donation, but the impact for over $200,000 of materials. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over first to Mr. Robbins, that if he wants to make any other comment about these pallets that we have and any other comments about this piece. And then we're going to begin to acknowledge Ms. Fisher, who is the representative that is with us this evening for the Ottawa Walmart. Mr. Robbins, Deputy Superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. I can tell you it was one day that we were sitting very quietly and received a phone call from Miss Jeanette Fisher, who you have a chance to meet here in just a second, representing the Walmart site in Ottawa, asking us if we wanted to receive a donation. We had no idea what sort of donation she was talking about when she asked about the PPE. It ended up being 3 semi-truck loads of PPE. We got 6 pallet loads of face masks. And within those pallet loads, there's 30 cases per pallet. We got 26 pallet loads of disinfectant wipes. And we had another 20 pallet loads of hand sanitizer, 52 pallet loads worth of PPE supplies that they were donating to the Pekin Public Schools. And I can't tell you how pleased we were and thankful we were to Walmart for reaching out to us. And the person who was responsible for that, who contacted us, I'd like to introduce, she's Miss Janet Fisher, who is the QA manager at the Ottawa site for Walmart.
Hi, my name is Jeanette Fisher. Thank you so much for having me here today. I really do appreciate it. Just on behalf of the distribution center itself, I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity for us to support our surrounding schools. It's our entire team, and it takes a lot for us to be able to do this, but we were able to give back to the community that our associates live in and take care of our kids, and that's what really matters to us. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
A certificate for you, as well as a banner that the students made. So we're going to roll that up, and either Dr. Gray or I will get a chance to deliver that. And then the video we just took, we'll be sending that to you as well. So the students had a great time. They got a chance to look at where the Ottawa Walmart is and find it and share all of this with their families. And so again, that will be rolled up and sent to you. They actually made 2 banners. So both banners will be sent to you, as well as a card and our certificate we have for you. So in our
We'll be honored to display those. Thank you so much. That means a lot to our associates. Thank you.
Thank you. And so with that, if you were here right now, we'd be giving you a certificate. So we'll be giving you the certificate as well when we come by, as well as a letter thanking you. But the certificate does say Topeka Public School District recognizes Walmart Distribution Center, and we're going to add Ottawa in there. So we know the folks from Ottawa kind of came together for this. For your generous donation of personal protective equipment and additional supplies to Topeka Public Schools. We appreciate you and thank you for touching so many lives. I'm going to turn it over to our school board, who may have a question or two for you this evening.
Anyone would like to comment? Mr. Munoz.
Ms. Fisher, there's so many deserving school districts out there. What caught your attention about 501?
Actually, I've contacted multiple schools, and we've been able to donate to multiple USDs through Kansas and Missouri. Just having the overstock of it and having too much freight in the building, us being able to donate that, we were given the approval from home office to contact schools in a radius of 100 miles from us. And if we could get them to come and pick it up, we are more than happy to donate it. So yeah, it was just team effort and contacting schools. And then you guys worked with us as well, trying to get your transportation set up, and everything just flowed so smoothly. It was a great team effort.
What else? Ms. Foley.
I certainly want to thank you for this contribution to our school community. We have started with masks in our district. We mandated masks, And at this stage, we have very few people in our district that have contracted this. And so it's masks that we believe are really helping us make a difference, and you are allowing us to keep our students safe and our staff safe. And we just really appreciate you reaching out to our district like this, because as far as I'm concerned, you're saving lives. So thank you so much.
I feel the same way about you guys. You're doing an incredible job under the circumstances that you are given, and we're just incredibly blessed to have people like you in our school districts in our surrounding areas supporting our children. And we have associates whose children go to the Topeka schools. So us being able to give back to our community like that, it's just part of our core values.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thanks again for your generosity in thinking of Topeka Public Schools.
All right, so Ms. Fisher, again, we've shown you the certificate and the video. We're going to email you the video. We have a few final touches on that tomorrow. So we'll email you that tomorrow so you can share that with your team. And Dr. Gray and I will schedule a time to make that special delivery to you. And thank you so much again. And we'll be talking to you again soon. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
With that, great highlight and the knowing of the support of the community. We've had just continued support in so many ways. Last time we talked about Laird Noller Ford and their $20,000 donation to Loman Hill. And so we said we were going to bring this back up so that we can really get into this donation. They've done this for 3 consecutive years. It's pretty amazing. And so Mr. Franklin is here with us this evening. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Robbins to tell a little bit about this. Mr. Franklin, I'm going to go ahead and read the certificate. We so appreciate you and the uniforms and all the things that you've been able to make possible for us. Topeka Public Schools Certificate of Appreciation is recognizing Laird Noller for your ongoing partnership with Topeka Public Schools and your $20,000 donation, because you're partnering in so many ways with Topeka Public Schools Early College Prep Academy. That's allowed us to get uniforms and school supplies, and we thank you so much. Previously, I believe we shared also the video at the last meeting with, we didn't have to make them a video because the media got them one tape with that video. So they've been all over the news, just prompting other people to give back and promoting that. And so their media message has really been sent out. And because of them, we believe other people are inspired to give, as we're seeing tonight, other people giving in follow up to your donation. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Robbins about these 3 consecutive years, and then we will see if Mr. Franklin has any comments and turn it over to the board.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. As you mentioned, for 3 consecutive years, Laird Noller Ford has been such a great partner and a fabulous neighbor to Topeka Public Schools. I think this year is certainly noteworthy when you think about the pandemic and how it has affected businesses here locally. The fact that in particular, automobile manufacturers and automobile dealerships have been hit extremely hard during this pandemic with part outages. And if you've had a chance to drive by Noller Ford, you see that there hasn't been much inventory on their lot because of the chip shortage that has affected manufacturing. But even in those difficult economic times, Laird Noller did not let that stop them from their support of our students. And we greatly appreciate that and can't tell you how much that means to us. And it shows just how committed they are to the success of our students and staff.
And so with those comments, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Franklin if there are any comments that you'd like to make about why you do this and why you all give. Again, given this is the 3rd consecutive year buying uniforms and all those things. So everybody at Loman Hill actually is well supplied because of the Ford dealership. So Mr. Franklin, would you like to make any comments?
Yes, ma'am. It's very important to the Noller organization, in particular our owner, Steve Noller, that he give back to the community. He recently has become a majority owner of the company, and he wants to make sure that that's something that we hold in the forefront as one of our values as an organization. And I can say personally, a lot of you may not know this, but my relationship with Larry Robbins has helped us and given us an avenue. I feel like with you all, and we look to expand that in several different ways as we have new and greater opportunities on the horizon. So we just look to continue to expand our relationship with you all, and we hope that we continue to satisfy other needs that you may have as well.
Again, thank you, Mr. Franklin, and the entire Ford dealership for just the tremendous generosity. I'm going to turn it over to the board if they have any questions.
Questions? Yes.
Mr. Franklin, would you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you arrived there at NOLA Ford?
Yeah, so I am a graduate of Sumner Academy in Kansas City. I went from Sumner to K-State, Kansas State University. I have a degree in business management and minor in pre-law. I decided instead of going to law school to pursue a career in the car business, which is interesting, I guess. But I've been there 10 years, and I am now general sales manager of sales for the Ford store. We have 2 locations in Topeka. We have the Ford and then the Mazda Hyundai Genesis on 29th Street. The Ford store would be on 21st and Topeka Boulevard. And that's where I am most of the time. But the extent of my relationship, I guess, with Larry and the introduction into the school board, Larry's daughter actually bought a vehicle from us, and he was involved in that. And our relationship grew from there. And slowly but surely, it's evolved into this.
Well, we're grateful for all of your support, and I'm sure Mr. Robbins drove a hard deal. So
Absolutely.
all right. Thank you again.
I've always kidded Mr. Robbins that I want to take him with me next time I need to buy a car.
I don't think you should kid about that. I think that should be serious, and you should pursue that.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Dr. Mickelson? That was it. Ms. Bowley?
I'm wondering if if Mr. Robbins has taken you over to Loman Hill yet to see all these spiffy kids in their uniforms at the school building.
I've not gone over there yet. No, we'll have to make that a priority. I have not done that yet.
I think you would be very impressed with your generous offerings that you have given to our district. I think you would be very pleased to see these students walk around with so much pride.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you are being invited.
Okay.
I'll take you by if I have to.
Mr. Franklin, where did you say you got your education?
Sumner Academy in Kansas City, and then Kansas State University.
Kansas State University. I just wanted to, it's like music to my ears. I got a question that has nothing to do with Larry Nolan.
Yes.
You any relation to the Franklins out of Wichita?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yeah, my uncle would be Wayne Franklin, and my dad is Bernard. So yes.
That's why I was asking. You look like your dad.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir. Yeah.
And Wayne and I are fraternity brothers.
Wow. Okay.
And Wayne was a member of the Topeka Public Schools Board of Education back in the past. Okay.
Wow.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you. Thanks for that.
So, Mr. Franklin, I just want to thank you so much. This is great. And just today, I was thinking, man, I'm sick of my car. I can do better. And it's actions like you all are doing would make me think, all right, when it's time for a new car, I'm going to the place that gives back to the community, especially our public schools. So see you soon with Mr. Robbins.
I appreciate that. Yes. And I realize a lot of people don't like buying cars, so I try to make it as easy as possible. That's my vow to the customers. I want to make it easy. People don't like doing that, and we understand that. So,
Mr. Franklin, we just thank you. And it sounds like this conversation can go on and on. We're hearing about negotiation skills, your background, your contribution, but also most importantly, your ties that are far deeper than selling cars. It sounds like your family that were on the board at one point, and your contribution to education continues. So that's some legacy building stuff. And along with the Nola Ford dealership, we thank you and all at the Ford dealership for continuing to invest in scholars. It is changing generations. We'll be delivering your certificate to you directly tomorrow. So we will bring that on over to the Ford dealership team. And again, thank you for your generosity. And we'll, again, leave that open invitation. Whenever you have a moment that you want to drive by Loman Hill, feel free to do that and you'll get a chance to see those uniforms in action.
I'll make that a priority. Thank you. Thank you all.
Dr. Anderson?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, I'd like to add that if he's going to visit Loman Hill, we probably better to do that fairly soon because he's about to be the father of triplets. So he's going to be pretty busy.
We're learning all about you, Mr. Franklin. Wow.
You couldn't pass that up, huh, Larry? You couldn't pass it up. Yes, yeah.
Well, congratulations on that as well. That is fantastic. Wow. All right, with that, school board, we have had a surprise donation, and I believe that individual will be joining us this evening. And I'll just see from Dr. Gray, I shared with them it'd probably be around 6:45, and we'll see if those individuals are here. And if so, they wanted to physically come. So we had a church in the community that has been very involved in Topeka Public Schools. That church has, for me, I told them 6:45, and shame on me. I normally would say 6 o'clock and have them wait for 30 or 40 minutes. And so they may not be here, but for another 5 minutes. So at this time, I would ask that when we do start the remainder of the board agenda, if we can put a pin in it then and turn it over to the church and the first lady of that church and the pastor to provide their donation directly to the school board. So we will stop at this time, and those are all the immediate highlights. And then I'll turn it back on over to Reverend Williams and the school board. Our highlights right now are paused, and then in about 10 minutes, we may have a church who wanted to donate this evening some items that their entire congregation gave. And they did call us yesterday. We didn't, we told them if the church came, and they wanted to give dollars, we will certainly receive it. And so if they do come this evening, we certainly will ask for you to pause, sir, for that.
Go ahead and move on to public comments in the meantime.
Yes, sir, please.
Okay. We have 3 individuals asking to speak. And first one is Nicole Wells. Good evening. As that you please come forward and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the board. We ask that your remarks to the board be respectful. If you should have a complaint against a specific employee, we ask that you submit your written complaint to the superintendent. If the complaint is against the superintendent, please address your written complaint to either me as board president or to the clerk of the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. or Reverend Williams. My name is Nicole Wells. My address is 3431 Southwest Watson Avenue, Topeka, Kansas, 66614. I am here to give you a scenario that happened a few weeks ago, right after the start of school with my son, who is in 3rd grade, regarding a mask incident. He was in PE. He said he had had a great day, and then explained to me that during PE, they were doing a running activity. He got super hot and couldn't breathe. Makes sense. They're kids. They get hot, right? Said he pulled down his mask so that he could breathe. To which when he looked up, his gym teacher was telling him to put it back on. He said, I put it back on because I didn't want to get in trouble. That's kind of sad when an almost 9-year-old is worried about getting in trouble as opposed to their own safety. Stewed on it for a few days and I emailed the principal. Didn't get a response from the direct principal. I got a phone call from the building administrative intern. I will just say that the response I got was not what I had in mind. She said she would follow up, but the first priority is the children around him. As a parent, that's terrifying, because if he were to suffocate or he would have passed out because of the mask, I would be livid. And I'm not sure that any of you understand the task that you have placed as a burden on these children. And I'm not sure why you're shaking your head at me, Dr. Morrison, because that is blatantly disrespectful. And it's hurtful to think that my kid is more worried about getting in trouble than his own safety. He's 8, almost 9. That is compelling to me that this is what they have been ingrained, that it is okay, that their feelings are subsided and we're ignoring the fact that there is a potential harm. I'm not okay with that. And if any of you are, that is terrifying. Because their safety is ultimately in your hands because you have imposed this mask mandate on them. If you're going to require them to wear it all day, give them breaks. Let them take it off during PE. It is not okay that they are forced to sit 7.5 hours with it on and not get to breathe fresh air. I don't know how else to say that politely, except for that is absurd. That you would think that that is okay and safe. And as a parent, I'm livid that he is more worried about getting in trouble than putting a mask on or pulling it down so he could just catch his breath. And with that, I am finished.
Okay. Next, we have Mr. Jeremy Gibson, who will be joining us via Zoom. Okay. Mr. Gibson, I ask that you state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the board. We ask that your remarks to the board be respectful. If you should have a complaint against a specific employee, we ask that you submit your written complaint to the superintendent. If the complaint is against the superintendent, please address your written complaint to either me as board president or to the clerk of the board. Thank you.
Jeremy Gibson, 928 Southwest Fraser Avenue. I'm speaking to you in regards to negotiations that concluded at the end of July. At the end of July, we took the contract offer to our bargaining unit members, and with 92% in agreement, we on our end passed the contract to you, to the board, for you to ratify. Some things I do want to say is, first off, thank you to the board for the increase and step for our certified staff members. I also want to throw out a large thank you to Mr. Robbins for the hard work that he did with the health insurance. This year, we are not receiving an increase in premium. That's very much very well received by the billing reps and by the bargaining unit, I should say. We received that very well, as evidenced with the approval rating. And we do not in the least think that there isn't going to come a time that there's going to be an increase in health insurance. We are extremely thankful to the board and to Mr. Robbins for any increase that we were going to see this year that was absorbed through the contingency funds earlier in this month, or I'm sorry, last month, in August. But so we're very grateful for that. And that's really all I had to say to you is on our end, we approved. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Brett Kale. Welcome. I ask that you please come forward and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the board. We ask that your remarks to the board be respectful. If you should have a complaint against a specific employee, we ask that you submit your written complaint to the superintendent. If the complaint is against the superintendent, please address your written complaint to either me as the board president or to the clerk of the board.
What was the first part of that, Mr. Williams, again?
Beg your pardon?
The first part of that again, please?
If you should have a complaint
No, I
against.
mean, the state my name and what
Oh,
else.
just state your name and address for the record.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
All right, my name is Brett Kell. I live at 3749 Southeast Truman Avenue. What I'm here to talk to you about is the reckless driving and speeding on the campuses of 501. I've addressed administrators at several schools, teachers, and resource officers, and we have students driving, teachers driving 40 miles an hour plus on campus, parents doing the same thing. My child today was involved in an accident on campus. This is the fourth accident in 3 years my family's had to deal with. And because of this, my insurance rates are now going up, even though I brought it to several administrators' things. Things I've been told, what can we do about it? Or there's nothing we can do about it. Maybe your children shouldn't drive. Every single one of those accidents were proven not to be my children's fault. And then today by a board office employee, I was told that's Topeka driving. 501 students are on 501 grounds before, after school, and school events are responsibility of 501. Some student is going to get ran over, get severely hurt by not regulating this. I almost saw a kid flip at T West, hit the speed bumps at 40 miles an hour and almost flip an SUV. And I had to call the student's mother about it because the school wouldn't do anything about it. We can email the parents a policy on driving on campus that goes to the students, parents, and staffs, because like I said, all three of those groups have been in violation. As a parent of 501 students and also as a former substitute for 501 for several years, I saw it from all different angles at all different schools. Suggestions are: first time, warning, parents notified. Second time, you could issue a ticket or detention, something like that. Third time, loss of driving on 501 grounds for a certain period of time. Fourth violation, they lose driving on campus for up to a calendar year. Like I said, this is not just at Topeka West. I've seen this at all the high schools and middle schools. And like I said before, because of these, my children were not charged for my insurance rate. Up until they're 18, they could drive anywhere in Kansas. Didn't cost me a dime. But now with these accidents on the record, my insurance rates are going up. And I've, like I said, spoken to many administrators, SROs, teachers and coaches of teams and activities when they're there after school, and no one does anything about it. I've had one teacher that was a coach say, what am I supposed to stand out there and watch them? Well, you're just sitting in your office not doing anything. All these parents are helping out. All these parents see the exact same thing. Why can't we have something done? Thank you.
Thank you.
And Reverend Williams, I'm not sure they can hear you. As that last public address, we do have our highlight our last highlight that is here. If I may proceed, sir, is that okay, President Williams? I will proceed on with that highlight. So we are so excited. We have a church that has been supporting Topeka for some time, and they're here this evening. And so Pastor Hicks, I know you've met young Hicks at Convocation many, many times, but this is Pastor Hicks and First Lady and Antioch team. So I'm going to turn it over to them at this time. Thank you. And they gave us a call kind of out of the blue. So they're going to share with you what this donation is, and I'll turn it over to the Antioch family.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson, and to the board. We're grateful to be here tonight, making this presentation to the Topeka Public Schools and to be able to be used however they wish. In the midst of this time, a lot of people are doing school supplies. We thought it would be fitting to go ahead and do card, Walmart, so that that single mother or that parent can go and get what they need. They might need a gallon of milk and some they might need some bologna and some bread. They can go get that. And so we spent some time and we came together and we were able to raise $1,500 towards that. That's 150 gift cards. And so tonight we want to present this $1,500 check to you guys, and we'll bring the gift cards at a later date. But then also we make a commitment for 25 more gift cards each month for the next 6 months. So thank you, Dr. Anderson. I don't know how we're supposed to present him. I'm supposed to.
You are doing just fine.
Don't spend it all in one place and all that good stuff.
And so we're going to turn it over to the board who has a few questions. But let me say
Okay.
this, that, we were talking about how far $10 will go.
Right.
We've talked about cereal and ramen noodles and rice and beans. We've talked about socks and all kinds of things that folks need. We've talked about bus passes. There's so many things that will do. And then the other piece of that $10, here's how powerful this is. A lot of times we get things that we can give to our students, but we don't always have dollars that we can, from the school system, give to a mom or someone that is in need that just needs a little bit of help.
Right.
So Antioch family, this goes not only to our students, but really to families.
Right.
And we just thank you so much. He didn't say one school. He said really however you see
Be
it's
fit,
needed,
exactly.
which is so very powerful. And because of that, we also have a certificate for you. Topeka Public Schools District recognizes Antioch Baptist Church for your $1,500 donation in support of students and families. Sir, we thank you.
Thank
We
you for
thank
that.
you.
And it's great to be in partnership with Topeka Public Schools and all the work that you guys are doing.
Thank you. Now, here's the thing. We don't normally have people at the board meeting. And so they probably don't know what to do in terms of photos. And so we're gonna let them first ask some questions. And then from that, after you answer those questions, board members, here's what I would propose. We're so excited to have someone physically here for the highlights. If you end up standing at your seat and they're just going to turn around with that check, and that way you'll be standing behind them just like you would if you were out here. You just stand right where you're at, and then we'll take that picture at the end if that sounds okay. All right, we're going to turn it over to the board who has questions.
First of all, thank you, Antioch Baptist Church family. Sister Gentry. Haven't seen you about 20 years. I see your husband over there. Good seeing you guys. Thank you so much. Brother Sanders, I'm not gonna overlook you. Okay. Dr. Mickelson.
First off, thank you for this generous donation to our parents and our students and our families. I recognize Mr. Sanders from DCAC, so I know you're involved in our district. I love listening to your son at the convocation every year. I'm envious of his speaking skills and wish him luck in Oklahoma. Is he a senior this year, or did he already go down there?
Yes, sir. He'll be going to Langston.
Langston. Okay. Okay. Senior this year. Okay. Well, we certainly appreciate it. I recognize, Pastor Hicks, your image in a video that was done not too long ago, where I think you're at Highland Park also helping families there as well. So we're so appreciative of the generosity you've shown to our families. So thank you very much.
Tell us about your church. What I love so much about this is that during difficult times, there's opportunities for us to be able to live out our faith. And so just I'd love to hear about your church and your members there and what inspired this idea.
Well, we're a historical church. We've been around for over 130 years here in the Topeka community. Have direct ties with the Brown versus Board of Education coming out of our church. But one of the things that we have always prided ourselves on is being able to reach out and be of service to the family. And so during this time, it's been hard on us all, everybody here. I don't know anybody here that has not experienced some difficulty through COVID. And at this time of year, we would always do something, backpack giveaways or something. And it really just pressed upon our Sister Gentry's heart, Janice's heart, and my heart, and the leadership team to do something different to impact the kids. And I'm just grateful to be able to pastor a church that sought to do something different. And one of the things we're trying to do is just reach out to everyone. So I'm excited that this is going to hit all ethnic groups across the board. And so we just want to be all inclusive to everybody, to be a blessing along the way. And I was good. You gave a preacher a mic. It's been a long time since I've seen people face to face. So open your Bibles and turn with me.
Dr. Morrison, we can't see you guys.
Okay, they want to just come around. Board members, you want to be in the back here and just move yourself around like you normally do? Folds and off to the side.
Yeah, we are.
Are we good enough?
It's too wide.
Are you ready?
It's too wide.
I don't think we're gonna move in much more, so we'll have to make magic work.
Possible do without a mask.
Yeah.
Fingers.
I don't think so. The board meeting, I think we should maintain those. All right, did you get everybody? Thank you. All right, right there. Right. Did you get it? All right.
He knows everybody.
Okay.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much. Pastor, just a moment, and so you're handing me the check like you're doing it for the first time. All right. Thank you.
Pastor Hicks, go Chiefs.
We don't want to cause a problem in the board meeting.
And sir, that does conclude our highlights.
At this time, we'll entertain a motion for business by consent.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the items of business by consent as presented and authorized by the board president or superintendent to sign the special project and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, it's been moved in second. Any discussion?
I have a very short discussion, and that's this includes a contract with Topeka Tennis Association. And believe me, this is a wonderful deal for 501 that we're paying a small amount to use the tennis courts at Crossover. And those tennis courts, they're renovating and refinishing, and we're paying a small amount so that we can use them. So I told the Topeka Tennis Association that I would tell everybody that we are getting a bargain.
Bit of trivia about Crossover Tennis Center, the building that's there on that site. I was project manager for it.
Wasn't there an estimate of $1 million or $2 to build 6 tennis courts at Hummer? So 5,000 a year is a real bargain, as Mike said.
Yeah, I do have a question on 11.1 on the personnel agenda. So I saw a few contracted subs, and I just had a question about what that position is exactly, because I hadn't seen it phrased quite like that before.
Mr. Robbins, did you want to address that, or would you like for me to address that?
I can address that, Dr. Anderson. Contracted sub is what we use to obtain a substitute that we know is going to be with us for the entire year, each and every day, not just a sub that is on call. That particular person salary is established based on the salary schedule. And that particular contracted sub is also one that is benefit eligible, which is different from a regular classroom sub that is used infrequently or frequently, but not on a full-time everyday basis.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Ready for the vote?
All votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. That brings us to superintendent's report.
This evening, I want to open the floor for the board to ask any questions regarding the strategic plan. Dr. Morell, if you might recall, wasn't with us at the last meeting, and there were some specific questions under college and career. He is with us this evening, and he is online and prepared to answer any questions. We're going to remind everyone where our strategic plan is. Certainly, board members, you have a copy of that. Updates have been made as a living and ongoing document, including potentially some updates over the last week or two since our last board meeting. Those updates may have gone all the way through today, and here's what you can expect, that updates would be ongoing. For example, if there was a new legislation or new dollars that might target something specific, a new partnership, we are not expecting this to be a plan that sits on a shelf. We expect for this plan to be literally a living document. With that being said, for those that are listening, what has happened since our last board meeting are the original members of the Strategic Planning Committee came together along with some new members who've expressed desire to be part of that committee. We listened to the GTP, the Greater Topeka Partnership Strategic Plan, and we were reminded of the context that their plan is aligned to our plan, or rather our plan is aligned to theirs. They were written at the exact same time because both Matt Pavarnik and I both started right around the same time. So we were fortunate in writing strategic plans at the same time. Therefore, they're both quite aligned. Large focus on early childhood, a very large focus on college and career readiness. And then an academic component is in the city's plan and in our plan. So with that structure, I entertained any questions or changes. There weren't any proposed then. But moving forward, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Morell regarding college and career, any updates that he'd like to speak to, and then turn it back over to the board with any questions you might have before approving the strategic plan. Dr. Morell.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. I just wanted to let the board know that things are going well in terms of college and career readiness. One of the things that I wanted to inform you of is that a lot of the work of the Career and Technical Education Department is funded by the Carl Perkins Grant. And that grant has changed with a focus not only on a particular school district, but a focus on the region. So 2 years ago, we were living under the guidelines of Perkins 4, which limited the focus to the local education agency. We're now working under the guidelines of Perkins 5, which forces us to take into account the needs of the region. So for example, if we are looking at a particular pathway, we need to consider the labor needs not only of Topeka, but also of the Topeka region, which includes, of course, the cities surrounding Topeka. And in order to meet that guideline, statute, or regulation, we have to work with not only our post-secondary partners, but also the business and industry partners in the area.
Thank you, Dr. Morell. We're going to pull up the plan and we'll go specifically to the college and career readiness area. We use a Google document, so any changes from the last meeting to now and any changes he may have made and tweaked since his last advisory board meeting would be in this document. As we go to that section, for those that are online, if you're going to the plan, if you just click on that table of contents, it's going to jump right to that page. Dr. Morell, are there any specific things that you want to point out in any of the objectives under career readiness, sir, as we just scroll through the items regarding TCALC and any updates that you may have made or want to speak to?
I just want to mention that enrollment at TCALC has increased. And so right now we're looking at 200 students in TCALC pathways. That would be about 230 if we had engineering this semester, but that is not the case. We also have the CNA program that is being taught by Washburn Tech instructor at TCALC this year, which started in January of last year, and that includes an additional 40 students. And of course, then we also have the college prep students at TCALC. So on a regular basis, every day we have about 313 students. So we're really happy that the building is being used as was designed, and we're looking for further growth. In addition to that, we also have the internship partnership with Stormont Vale Healthcare. They indicated last week that they're going to offer internship opportunities to an additional 15 to 18 students starting next month. We also have the internship thanks to Dr. Mickelson with Hills Pet Nutrition, and that is going well. And we're also looking at additional internships that I was notified today will start very shortly. So we're really happy that things are going well at TCALC.
And we're going to stop there and turn it over to our board members to ask questions. I will say that Ms. Boley did have a question previously about Kansa, and we talked about that, but Dr. Morell, since you're here, can you share why Kansa is listed in there as a in the manner that it is and the structure regarding TCALC and Kansa? Can you talk about that, sir?
Right. For our baking and pastry arts management pathway, they needed a laboratory, basically a kitchen to work. So that's why we're using the Kansa kitchen. Eventually, we hope to move to using that as a space where people can actually come and use that cafe for eating. But right now, we are limited to the students using that as their lab, and as they prepare sweets and different meals, et cetera, they bring those over and use the small cafe area at TCALC and sell those items to staff and students. But as we grow and move, further along, we'll have actually hopefully use that Kansa space as a cafe.
Dr. Morell, so one of the things that I've read through as much as I could, here's what I'm hoping, that every graduation, that every young person either has a plan to go to school, to have some sort of technical, plan, or if he has a plan, or he or she has a plan to go straight into the workforce. And so my question is, if you might sort of help me understand, as a student goes through, middle school and into high school, how are we helping them sort of understand what's available in terms of options? I think there are a couple of layers to this. The first is that the economy is such that there are lots of opportunities. And I think, oftentimes it's not in the favor of workers and individuals looking for employment, but I think they are right now. And so if I'm hoping to take advantage of that to help our students find jobs and find opportunities, employment opportunities that can set themselves up to do quite well and hopefully better than what maybe they've experienced thus far. Second layer of this is then that I also think that we have a really important opportunity to try and help to have these young people develop roots here. I think we all know that for a long time, many of our young people have gone on to find opportunities elsewhere. And if we can help to make sure that every young person understands what the local economy looks like, understands what opportunities are available to them, that we can do a lot of good here. So could you help me understand, what we as a school system are doing to help them once they reach graduation?
So there are two things that I'd like to address. One is the individual plan of study that each student must have, starting in grades actually 6 through 12. The state requires that. So We are working diligently to make sure that that happens. We're using Naviance as a tool to help us do that so that both the students and the students' parents can see what's available, not only at the college level, but also in the different careers that are available. So that is ongoing, along with our help from our counselors in the schools and administrators and teachers, so that students are really aware and they have various things that they need to do throughout the year to make sure that they are working towards their individual plan of study, so that each grade level, they know where they are and what they plan to do. The other thing is that we work very closely with our business and industry partners in Topeka. So for every career pathway, whether it's at TCALC or the comprehensive high schools, we have business and industry partners that sit on our pathway advisory boards, and they let us know what we're doing, or do we offer the right curriculum? And also, do they have internships that our students can participate in? And also, are there jobs available? The other thing is the college and career fair that we've had now for, I guess, 3 years. And, that'll be taking place in October, where our students can take advantage of the information that both colleges and our businesses bring to bear in October.
Mr. Munoz, that's such an important question. I'm going to take you to a couple of documents that might be helpful. Now, Topeka Public Schools has always been, far predating me, the host of the college fair for the entire, not only county, but the region. And that continues and will again occur in the October timeframe. The difference is it's now at TCALC as opposed to being hosted at the Ag and Science Wing or at the Expo Center, which is where it was 5-6 years ago when I started. If you go to our website, and part of this, and Mr. Gown didn't know we were going to go here. So if we go to the Topeka Public Schools website, there's a link on the right side called resources. Any parent that's watching can click on that resource link, or if you are on your own computer, if you click on the TopekaPublicSchools.net, click on resources. Under resources, you're going to see a variety of things, and it's right at the very top. And you'll see the link resources. I just clicked on it myself to make sure. So we're going to go to the top of the website. When you first open it, you'll see that picture, see that resources, which is right next to departments. And we're going to click on that resource link. Once we click on the link, then as you scroll down, you'll see lots of resources. The link we're going to click on next is called Program of Studies. But I will tell you before you do that, there is a college and career planning. When you want to know for parents, how do they know what to do? We're not going to click on that link, but that's another resource. When I started in the district, the Program of Studies was already there. The piece that was missing was that plan when you say, hey, when I come to middle school, what happens next? What happens over 9th and 10th grade? They have the overall plan, but the alignment in terms of what are the jobs, how much do they pay, at what year, all of that. So fortunately, having been in Kansas City Public Schools, having just redone that booklet, that's the same booklet we used in St. Louis, and it's the same booklet we're actually using here. Not the booklet in its entirety, but that one page in particular is added into our booklet. So let's take a look at that page. And so on that particular page, one of the other things that over the last 4 years, and this was really something guided by our state, and Ms. Wallace can certainly chime in as she chooses, the request was really to do these career inventories. And so we started with one type, and now we have Naviance, which I absolutely love. It's what my children had when they were younger in the school district they were in. But it is one of the top premier college and career sites, so that you really have this individual plan of study at the middle school level. It's part of our accreditation process as well. And parents can actually have a Naviance night. It'll tell you the financial aid. It is really a powerful tool. But all of our students complete that, and they literally have a career profile. Here are the options, here are the jobs, this Naviance program. Okay, so now we're on the program of studies. In the program of studies, if we go down to, I'm going to try to navigate, and that's great. So the page you're on, and really, if you kind of look through this, so on the page that he's on, he's going to go down a little bit where it says career cluster and program of study. You'll see on one side, it shows 9 through 12 on one page. You can see the career of study that you would like to study. On the right side, you'll see internships, job opportunities. All of that is right there in the program of study. For those that are looking at this online and you're just seeing the screen, It tells you the classes that you'll take. It even has the assessments. We added in the student organizations that you might want to be part of if you want that particular career pathway. And so we've really made it easy to be able to see, how do I get that job? Oh, here are the classes. And so this is just a powerful document. And again, about 15 or so years ago, just through an audit, overseeing a counseling program as a chief academic officer, this was part of our product. And this product is one that each district, have kind of taken with me so that it's embedded seamlessly into what we do. So again, Topeka Public Schools already had a program of study. We just refined the tool a little bit to be more in alignment with all the jobs that are going to be there in the future. Does that answer your question, Mr. Munoz, about how do parents know and what do they see in addition to everything that Dr. Morrell has shared?
It does. One of the things that I see here is that we measure something, right? We measure ACT scores, which I think is great, and we measure graduation rates within a certain time frame. Do we have any sense of, are we measuring that everybody has a good sense of what their plan is, right? I mean, have they, we talked about the individual plan, right? Is there a way to know what I want to make sure is that we've not missed anyone who reaches the graduation point and, sometimes students, the parents are in a position to be able to sort of, explain and guide them. And that's what I'm worried about, is how do we figure out a way to make sure that by the time we've done our job in terms of getting them through the school system, that they're prepared to be successful.
And we actually do measure that. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because people, this would be helpful for anyone listening. So as you know, Mr. Munoz and others, the last district that I came from, 100% poverty, it's 100% graduation rate, 100% college placement rate. It is possible, or it's nearly 100% college and graduation rate nearly. So that is possible, college or career. So let's talk about the measurements that we have. There are three. Ms. Wallace will tell you for our accreditation, she's going to share with you how that individual plan of study, there's actually a measurement to that. How many kids have completed it? Do they all have a plan of study? She'll share with you what that number is very briefly. And then Dr. Morrell will share with you in terms of the measurement. Well, he's held accountable every year. He's trying to make sure that as many students graduate with their industry credential and that they're completers or concentrators. So he's going to just briefly share kind of what that is. And then on this document that I showed you, you'll see on the very right side, you'll see assessments. So every month I have data consults. If you'd like to see one, next week they start, I'm so excited, where we get to meet with every school every month. But if you're a high school, you're going to be talking about not only your ACT and PSAT and SAT, ASVAB, or workplace, your K-State assessments, your AccuPlacer. So they're all and those are career related ones and to your college ones. So we get a chance to look at what's the data. How many students have actually finished that? What's their performance? If they want to go to the military, do they have that assessment done? So we actually have all of those tools, and it's our data consult. It's our data dashboard that we have in place that I think is unique and has been highlighted nationally. So that's really been powerful. I think it's what's driven our increase in our graduation rates as well, and our college and career placement rates. You should also know, since Dr. Morrell, another increase has been the industry credentials, and I think it's because of this alignment. So with that being said, Ms. Wallace, can you talk a little bit about individual plan of study and that measurement, which we're held to for accreditation purposes?
Yes. So IPS, or having an IPS in place and implemented, is one of the 5 KSD outcomes for accreditation. And we measure that through looking at student completion of different components of Naviance. So part of Naviance, starting in 6th grade, is an interest inventory. And then they will repeat that interest inventory a few times because, kids, their interests change, and their interests and their aptitude. And so there's aptitude tests and interest surveys and different pieces along the way that we've outlined take place at each grade level. And then starting in 7th grade, they start looking at and completing their individual plan of study. So looking at what electives and or what career pathways they might want to participate in. And then they start creating that plan as they go. And by the time they enroll for high school. They have that plan established. And then on an annual basis, they review it with counselors. They look at it and they can make changes and adjustments to that plan. And so part of what counselors do is to meet with students and to look at their plan of study and make those adjustments as they change their interests and goals for post-secondary. And we measure that by completion of those different components. And we run, Dr. McDonald and I run a weekly report on completion rates, and we push that out to principals. And they do all of this during an advisor-based time as well, the different components. So it's really interconnected between teachers knowing what's going on with their advisor-based students, coordinating with counselors, and then we pull it back to our data consult with administrators.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. And very briefly, Dr. Morrell, can you mention the industry credential assessment in terms of what that is so people know what that is, sir, and that measurement tool?
Absolutely. So for each career pathway, we hope that our students will earn a career credential, an industry recognized credential. And at TCALC and throughout the district, the students can earn it. For example, CPR is a credential, first aid's a credential. Our students earn credentials if they're in baking and pastry or culinary arts and the ServSafe credential. So there are a number of credentials that students can earn, and we try to make sure that students earn at least one industry recognized credential while they're with us. I want to mention also that one of the things that is measured with career and technical education are whether we have concentrators or completers in the district. So 3 years ago, 4 years ago now, when I came there, was a problem with counting the number of concentrators. It was a hand process, which took a lot of time. So students were missed. So working with Dr. Kip last year, he put together a program that we can use through Tyler Pulse. And we've moved from about 325 concentrators last year to over 500 this year. So we're really excited about that we can actually increase the number of concentrators. And now we need to increase the number of completers. So for concentrators, a student has to take at least two CTE courses in the same pathway and pass end of course assessment. And for completers, it's 3 courses in the same pathway with a third-party assessment. And for that, we use precision exams, which we've been using now for 3 years. So we're really excited that we're increasing the number of concentrators and completers and moving forward.
So the power with all of that is that they can leave high school and go straight to work with a certificate already in hand. So we're excited about that. Now, every class about 2 years ago at TCALC also was signed up to Allen County Community College. So every student gets college credit. That's now expanded to other colleges as well, but they get college credit just by going to TCALC and taking those classes. Our counseling supervisor is his associate principal. So we've designed that role, which is new and unique. That was about 3 years ago, maybe 4, I guess, when Dr. Morrell started, I guess 3 years ago, actually. And about 3 years ago, to me, it didn't make a lot of sense having the counselor as a separate role, but really having his associate principal, and it gave the reason why they needed to be an associate at such a small place that didn't have after school activities. At least they don't have a lot of them. Make them associate, and then that person oversees Naviance and is the trainer for that. That person is the connection for all the counselors in the training. So Ms. Jessica Johnston, as part of her associate principal role, she also is the counseling supervisor, which again has led to the growth at TCALC in exponential ways.
Well, thank you all for helping me sort of guide me through that. I think we all want to make sure our students are as successful as possible, especially in this time and age right now. And this plan is an important part of it. So thanks you guys for all of your hard work.
I see in the plan that there are exit interviews planned for teachers that leave, but I didn't see anywhere there's exit interviews or follow-up on students that are lost from freshman to sophomore, sophomore to junior, and junior to senior year. We'll have a graduation rate calculated on number of people that started their senior year and then those that finished senior year, but we don't have any follow-up from freshmen that didn't get to their senior year. I've been told that they transfer away, but to where? Because we're all losing.
We do provide exit interviews to families, and so, and Dr. Kip's on the line, but we provide those as they depart, where are you going? For those individuals that actually indicate they're departing. So they all have that opportunity. It's not in the strategic plan because the pillars of the plan, one area is teacher quality, therefore the exit interviews for teachers. And at that time, certainly 5 years ago and ongoing, it has been to continue to reduce any kind of turnover and to increase our recruitment. And so under that recruitment and retention, you'll see the teacher piece. But the recruitment and retention, you don't see that as a pillar standing alone for students. But exit interviews, again, that far predates me. We've perhaps refined them and continued them. One of the items that may be a point of discussion at a later time that we certainly plan to bring to our strategic plan over the course of this first semester is to really look at demographic exit interviews. I believe Mr. Munoz may have had conversation maybe with Dr. Kip or others. And that's really a board conversation to talk about how do we look at why is Topeka, Kansas losing families, if in fact that's still the case, or not losing families. So we do exit interviews in terms of why they're leaving. But what we're looking at is maybe refining that in terms of did you have a job here? Did you have a home situation? Asking some of the other characteristics that make a person leave, including students. Now, students do a 360 survey, which they give feedback every year. In the pandemic last year, we didn't do it in the way that we normally would if they were here all year. But at the end of the year, parents and students give feedback on their year. Do they feel safe? Do they feel if they that instruction was effective? So there are a variety of areas that they comment on as well as part of that climate and culture survey.
Now, the fact that there's a significant percentage of families without broadband access, does that not affect their ability to communicate with their needs and their plans for the future?
Well, for students, a lot of times the students do this at school or they do it on their phone, is what we have found. Almost 100% of our families have been registering online. So our families have access somewhere to register for school online. And we're talking over 13,000 people doing that successfully. And that's been in place for almost, I guess, maybe 4 years now. And so with seeing that high percentage of people that are able to enroll, look at grades, pay fees, they've done that successfully. So our strategies that Mr. Gowan has been highlighted for both in the paper and here in terms of addressing digital equity has allowed us to make sure people are connected. But this is ongoing. I don't think there's ever a finish point. I think, until we have 100% graduation rate, and when we have that, we still aren't finished in terms of making sure that we're refining what we're doing. But keep in mind, 6 years ago, we were at least at Highland Park, about 50-60% graduation rate, somewhere around there. And then we moved to the 80% range, and it's kind of teetered in between 80% and a little below that with the adjustments with pandemic and what have you. So Topeka High had never been above 90% graduation rate, and they certainly are above 90% now. So Topeka West is above 95%. So we're excited about the progress the last 3 years, and we anticipate as we get through this pandemic to rebound and to sustain and grow on that. I appreciate that question. So those future exit interviews, we'll bring those here to see what other questions we might not be asking that you want us to ask.
And for the teachers, I'm assuming that income is a significant factor in their retention or departure. And in the 70s and 80s, nurses, RNs, and teachers were pretty equal. But now, teacher starts out at 45,000 and an average RN starts around 60. There's a little discrepancy now. They just haven't kept up. And I think it'd be very hard to recruit people into the teaching profession. And that's part of what our 5-year plan is. Is there not a way we can increase the pay? Like we had free tuition to work on master's degrees, but only 15 opportunities. And I think 13 of those people went into administration. They didn't further their teaching careers.
So Topeka Public Schools pays more than everyone in this area. So that's the first point to know. We have, again, predating me since Mr. Robbins. And so you would have great difficulty getting a position anywhere in this county and potentially region and making more. Kansas as a whole ranks somewhere around 45, 48 out of, I'm sorry, they actually improved. So they were at about 42 out of 50 states in terms of pay. So Kansas as a whole is ranking last in pay in general. However, if you're competing within Kansas, which many Kansans like to stay in Kansas for many reasons, if you're competing in Kansas, certainly Topeka Public Schools is a top paying district and pays more than everyone in this county. And certainly I invite Mr. Robbins if he wants to add to that. Outside of that, the other pieces, and we've seen, is that our retention and our recruitment has improved significantly. We have last year, even during a pandemic, and the year prior, have had very few openings, whereas 6 years ago, it wouldn't be uncommon to have a lot of openings in a lot of classrooms. And so in addition to the salary, the programs that we've had in place, Ms. Wallace is actually the adjunct professor. I've appointed her and Dr. Mack about 5 years ago to oversee the K-State program. So we have people who are teaching in a classroom or working in the curriculum department who finish the K-State program, including or in their technology department every year. Right now, they have 15 people who are teachers, many of who plan to stay teachers. So that program is currently in our district and is, every year we have teachers in that program. The other thing the board did about a year ago, right before you started, I asked, for the policy to be adjusted to say where possible, when there are funds available, can we assist with some graduate work? Now, Ms. Wallace can do that through grant funding for some areas like math and reading to help people get certified. That's an attraction. But we also have provided some support where we can in the areas, other areas of graduate performance. I think you'd be hard pressed to find any place with the comprehensive package from compensation to benefits to all the other pieces as it relates to graduate school in Topeka Public Schools. So I would venture to say our neighbors might be faring a little worse than us in some areas across this region, just because we really do have a comprehensive package. Any other questions for us?
Better.
Always can be better. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to bring it back to the IPS and Naviance for the parent piece. So like just today, my freshman son, what'd you do at school today? Stuff. I'm like, okay, well, let's elaborate on stuff. And stuff then turned into Naviance. I'm like, all right, we're getting somewhere. So my question is, how do parents extract this information from Naviance from their children who respond with stuff?
Now, there will be a Naviance night for families. We're just in our first 3 weeks of the year. And so when we get closer to parent conference, you'll have that report and that information at that, because then they would have filled stuff out. So you'll have that report then, and then there'll also be Naviance nights. One, to see their profile and information. But if you're a senior, for me, and when I was in Virginia, they were using Naviance, or they actually introduced it to me, and I hadn't heard of it prior to then. And they only use the parent component for the scholarships and all the other connections, partnerships, internships, all that's in there. So you'll hear more closer to parent conference time, somewhere around October, and they'll have reports and resources, and then there'll be professional development for you to just, get stuff out of there yourself.
All right, and so can I access my children's Naviance?
Ms. Wallace, you want to answer that question?
Yes, I mean, you can have them log in. They can log in from any computer.
Okay.
And look at it from the student perspective. But during an audience parent night, we will share a little bit of more information about things you might be interested in looking at and how to navigate the system.
Great, sounds good. Thank you.
That concludes the strategic plan portion. As we wanted to focus on college and career for this evening, Reverend Williams, we'll turn it over to you, and we will be asking the board under action to approve the strategic plan. At the end of September, we give the final enrollment update, but I will share that we have surpassed 13,100 students, and we previously had 13,100 and approximately 80 students last year, somewhere thereabouts. So we are about 60 students off of that number. So we still have 4 weeks left. So we may well hit that same target, sir.
I know that this is the part of the meeting everybody has been greatly anticipating. Policies is everybody's favorite part. So I always think I'm going to be funny and like just unravel a huge scroll of paper and scare everyone, but I promise this will be pretty quick. So most of you have heard my spiel by now when it comes to policy updates, but I'm going to go ahead and give it again. So usually when we're looking at policy updates, what we're looking at is 2 types of changes, what I would call a substantive change and what I would consider a technical change. Technical changes are things that do not materially change the policy, simply clean up and those types of things. As I've explained before, if you got 100 different attorneys, we'd all write policies a little bit different and think that certain things should be included and other things shouldn't. So right now I'm your one attorney. So I guess we're kind of going by how I would suggest that these things go. So technical changes in the breakdown sheet that I put for on the board agenda. Again, if it's technical, the brief descriptions are usually, removing statutory references, consistency in language throughout policies and regulations, just updates for ease of use and those types of things. So I'm not going to go into great detail on policies that are simply technical changes unless you have specific questions on those, and only address the ones that we're recommending for change that have substantive changes. So the first one would be 2290. And that is our inclement weather policy. You can see it hasn't been updated since 2015, and before that it was 1988. And apparently we notify people a little differently if there is going to be inclement weather or snow days. So when I was a kid and my dad was a superintendent, I would just go into his room and go, "You should cancel school." And 99.999% of the time he'd say no. But otherwise, kids were listening to the radio and those sorts of things. Well, now we do it through the district website and the district social media pages and local news media. So we just updated how it is that we notify individuals that we're going to have a snow day and they should not attend school in person that day. So that's the first one. The second one is a new policy. For those of you who may not be aware, Kansas is what's called a single consent state. What that means is that it is not a crime for someone to record another individual without telling them, as long as they are part of that conversation. What you can't do is you can't leave a recording device in a room, leave the room, and then come back for it later and see what people were talking about. But if you're part of the conversation, you can record that conversation and you don't have to tell anyone about it. So we want to just add an extra level of protection for individuals while they're in the district and those types of things. So that's what this concealed observations policy would address, and essentially says that individuals would be prohibited from recording students, employees, and or board members surreptitiously or through the use of concealed audio and or visual recording devices. And basically says if you're going to record, you have to tell people first. This is a policy that that I proposed, and it's mostly most of it is taken from a KASB policy, which is what most districts in the state. So we certainly would not be an outlier by having this policy. It's something that I think most districts in the state have. And then finally, because we can't have a board meeting without talking about COVID at least a little bit. And while we're not going to talk about it specifically, we're going to talk about it in general in regards to our communicable diseases policies. So one is 4510, and that's for staff. And then we have one that's 8320, and that's students. First, some technical things was just removing statutory references. Then we attempted to, as the we is me and the policy committee, but we first wanted to be consistent in the language that we use. And luckily, Dr. Morrison hasn't gotten tired of me asking him medical questions yet, or at least he hides it very well. We're still meeting on Zoom, so he can't throw anything at me. So we went from, it was titled infectious diseases, we're now saying communicable. And then you can see in the policy, we even had contagious diseases. So we've landed on communicable. This is just some updates that gives us a little bit more latitude when dealing with communicable diseases. That when the individual is no longer contagious as certified by the individual's physician or local health officer, or after the expiration of any period of isolation or quarantine. And again, Dr. Morrison, correct me if I'm wrong, but previously we weren't dealing with quarantines a whole lot prior to COVID. So it wasn't something that we readily needed to have in our policies, but we're living in a little bit of a different world now. And so we just wanted to update and make sure that our policies are reflecting our practices, because another one of my little nuggets of wisdom is the only thing worse than not having a policy is having a policy you don't follow. So we just want to make sure that the policy is reflecting what we're doing. Again, we reserve the right to require a written statement that somebody is free from all symptoms. Again, just extra layers of protection. And if at any time we have reason to believe that an individual is suffering from an illness, we can request a health certificate from their doctor. So that was the staff one. And then the student one, similarly, just if they're suspected of having a communicable disease, we can ask that they not attend school. And then, we can get something from a doctor or the health department if we feel that, before they return to school. And then, of course, decisions regarding the type of education and setting and services will be based on the child's educational needs. So we will continue to try to meet those educational needs while they're outside of the brick and mortar schools as they're dealing with that. So see, painless. Oh, Dr. Mickelson, so close. Yes, sir.
So just, I appreciate the difficulty in trying to put into words a policy. But what about the flu or a cold or an STD, for example? They're all communicable diseases. Are we going to prohibit students from coming to school if they have a cold with this policy, or we just have the right to exclude them? Based on the
Yes.
principals who in most cases, I don't think is medically trained. So how does that, I understand the intent and I don't disagree with it. And I hate to be a nitpicker here, but I think, it is a policy that is communicable diseases. And so,
Well, and it does start out, at least with the students, as noted by a physician, school nurse, or other local health officer as having or suspected of having a communicable disease may be excluded. So it wouldn't be necessarily our principals or staff making a decision as to whether or not the student could be excluded. So there is that, and that the student will be readmitted as authorized by the student's physician, the local health officer, after the expiration. So that's kind of, I would agree, we should let school administrators be school administrators and not try to be health officials. So that would be the first part. So I guess if their doctor says you have a really bad cold and I don't think you should go to school, I think technically they may be excluded. And again, it's the may there, so it's not that it has to be.
So we're gonna ask students for their health, their. I mean,
No, and again, I think it's can. So some of this language is coming from a state statute where we have a certain obligation that if we know or we suspect that someone has a communicable disease, that as school nurses and those individuals do have a duty to report that. The reason behind that is we don't want a bunch of people who are at schools congregating together and the county health officials not knowing that that's occurring. So there is a state statute that allows, or not only allows, but requires us to report some of those things.
Some communicable diseases, but not all, I assume. I mean, I assume that a cold doesn't get reported. I would.
Correct. Yes. And I'm saying some of this language is coming from that. It's not verbatim. It's kind of mirroring that language because it's consistent with something that we can rely on from state statute that kind of gives us parameters. So I think we tried to write it as one, it has to be a physician, school nurse, or local health officer who's making the decision. And then we may exclude them. It doesn't mean we have to, that we may, from school for the duration of the illness. So
I may interject, Dr. Mickelson, does that answer the question, or would you like for us to spend some time to kind of look back at that particular policy?
I understand the intent. It's to protect our students and staff, and I get that. I just don't want it to be overreaching in the world of COVID.
Yeah.
To be so broad that, we have somebody say, you got a cold, you got to go, and here's a policy that backs it up.
Absolutely. If I may propose that particular policy itself, and this is just a discussion. So under this discussion piece, perhaps that particular policy, go back to the policy committee, noting Dr. Mickelson's comments, and perhaps that's further discussion and more time for that particular policy. Is that possible, Mrs. Copeland?
Yes, we can look at that. Great, thank you.
I don't want to be, I think it's probably appropriate. But I just think it could be misinterpreted, and I just want to make sure it doesn't.
Absolutely.
So thank you for indulging me.
I'm also going to be somewhat a little picky here. Today I heard in Florida, in a particular district that was mandating masks, and the only way you could not wear a mask was getting a doctor's permission certificate presented to the school. And there is a chiropractor that has written over 350 of these for students. So when we asked to have medical certification to return, is there some way we can protect that by having an appropriate doctor?
So Ms. Boley, if I may suggest, and that's this policy that on another end that you're suggesting some adjustment. And for my reminder, who is on the policy committee? Which board members would that be? And so for the 3 board members, if I may propose that this policy for both items be looked back at in terms of language, so there aren't those 2 issues, and then bring it back to the board at that time. So thank you both for those items, and Ms. Cope will help guide in terms of giving consideration to that language. Any other questions on the other policies? Thank you.
I thought it was appropriate that we have the extension of state or of the local laws on the streets extended to our campuses, given the comments we heard earlier from a patron. So the same rules apply whether you're on a Gage Boulevard or a street and parking lot in Topeka High, Topeka West, Highland Park. So.
That takes us to action item to approve 2026 strategic plan.
I have a question. So are we done discussing the strategic plan? Like we're voting now to approve it?
You're
So-
asking you to approve the current strategic plan, knowing that there will be continued updates through the committee over the course of the year. Yes, ma'am.
I move that we approve the 2022-2026 strategic plan.
Is there a second? Been moving second to approve the 2022 to 2026 strategic plan. Any discussion, further discussion? Dr. Bonebrake? Oh. We're ready for the vote.
All right, the vote is open. All votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
Takes us to board member comments. Dr. Bonebrake.
The 5-year plan, if we could extend the school year, maybe go into quarters. That way teachers could get more pay if they worked all 4 quarters. And our ACT, SAT scores should go up. But I would like to see some continuation of our attempt. We are making baby steps, but attempt to extend the school year. That's all I have.
Dr. Orson.
I want to apologize for bringing attention to myself from the comments of the young mother. I mean, facts are no child will be suffocated or have decreased oxygenation by wearing a mask. Number one. Number two, we are seeing all over the nation how masks are so very important to mitigate COVID-19. And I think the phys ed teacher was being very, very careful. But I do understand a 3rd grader having trouble understanding after working out and sweating and having a mask that it's very uncomfortable. And I know it's very uncomfortable, but it's not dangerous. And so I just want to apologize. I shouldn't bring attention to that, but I'm just so very tired of it. That's all I have.
Dr. Mickelson.
Just along those same lines, I responded to a patron who wrote me and did some research on the CDC and website. And this is a couple, 3 or 4 weeks old data, but we had that previous week, there was 94,000 positive cases of COVID in under 18-year-old children. 0.8% of those kids are hospitalized, and 1/3 of those that are hospitalized end up in ICU. So I refuse to use the metric of it doesn't kill kids as our metric. It does infect them, it does make them sick, and it does have impact to our children, our schools, our communities. And like Dr. Morrison, I believe masks are important in preventing spread of the disease. So that's all I have.
Smoley.
I would like to say I agree to the gentleman on my left. We have had a referendum taken away for rent payments. And so that's going to create probably a problem with some homelessness in our district. And I just wanted to thank our district for being part of the Impact Avenue to help homeless people. Our partnerships with Topeka 501, Topeka Public Schools. We just have so many important partnerships. And I just want to thank Dr. Anderson for finding those partnerships. And I'm assuming that we'll be looking at some homelessness at maybe a rate that we don't normally see, and that I hope that our schools will be watching for that. I wanted to thank one of our teachers who is a PE teacher, who actually saved a child's life at Robinson Middle School. A child was choking at lunch, and she reacted to that and saved that student. So I know our teachers every day are protecting our students, watching out for our students, finding out which ones are homeless, which ones need extra food at home, who needs the extra help. And so I commend our staff for doing what they are doing, and yet also trying to hold to our policy, our board policy of having everybody wear masks. And so I want to share my appreciation with all the teachers that are reminding the students that those masks are important. They're important to keep our community safe, our schools open, and it's a tough job. Any teacher will tell you it's very hard to help students keep those masks on all day, but they are doing an excellent job, and they are watching out for the health of our students. Topeka High is going to kick off a celebration, 150 years. I think it starts September 17th. They're going to have a lot of celebrations. So if you are looking for a celebration, wear your mask because it'll be required if anything's inside. But come help celebrate Topeka High School. 150 years in existence is a celebration that we should all have. And with a graduation over 90%, we should be dancing in the halls. So we should be out there celebrating too. I was out visiting some schools the last couple of weeks since school's open. I was lucky enough to be at Ross the first day of school. And they actually put me to work to help guide kids to classrooms and help parents out. And so I just totally enjoyed my day there. I've been trying to get by to some of our new principals that have just been awarded their buildings, and to see their pride in their programs. Mrs. Artser over at McClure, it was just very fun visiting there yesterday, and to see her joy and professionalism. I went to Avondale Academy to see the new renovations there and how they're dealing with a much smaller space. And you know, they pointed out to me that many of their students that are at the academy have really not been in school for almost 2 years. And helping them get accustomed to being a student again is a big job. And it's happening also in our kindergartens and our first grades and our second grades. Some of these students haven't been there before. So helping first grade teachers be kindergarten teachers at the same time has been an adventure for many of them. So any support you can give to your teachers and a thank you, please do, because it has, even though we're back in school, it's been a difficult time, and they are doing a stellar job. They are quite the remarkable people. Suicide Prevention Week starts September 5th. And I want to commend our district for our website. We have excellent resources on there for parents to find if you have some concerns for your students. It's a reminder, since we have that Suicide Prevention Week, please go to your webpage and find your resources. There are so many places that we are able to help you, help your student, and make sure everyone stays safe and gets to that graduation. So please remember that. Also, I want to commend our board and our district. We're putting our money where our mouth is. We say we respect and hold our teachers up to high esteem. And in our budget and the new contract that was just accepted, we are putting our money where our mouth is. We are showing our appreciation. I wish we could give more money, but the difference between nurses and school teachers is school teachers are paid by tax money. And we can pay them more if we want to raise everybody's taxes, but I don't believe that that would come back to us in a fair. And I mean, we'll have a lot more public comments for sure. And so that's the difference in our teachers coming and doing something because it's from their heart. And we try to support them the best we can. And I think all of us would say they deserve more money. We know they do. And we thank them for working for Topeka Public Schools for the highest wages in the county. And thanks to all of our buildings and teachers and administrators, things are looking really good. Thanks.
Stuart Campbell.
My comments are about our strategic plan, and I am going to start with some commendations I have. So for objective 1.25, so no surprise to anybody, I am specifically going to talk about English learners and dual language. This is very impressive, and I want to make sure everybody is aware of what's happened with our EL program. Okay, so the objective is expand EL services. And I just want people to know that Anita Curry, our ELL director, and her team, they deserve like mega trophies, considering how much the EL program has grown under her leadership. Because when she came in 2009 to serve as the EL director, 2 of our high schools had an ELL program, only 2 of our middle schools, and 7 of our elementary schools out of, 7 of our elementary schools. Now, all 3 of our comprehensive high schools provide ELL services. All 6 of our middle schools provide ELL services, and 13 out of our 15 elementary schools provide ELL services. So I'm clapping very loudly for that accomplishment. It's huge. So also about dual language, this is so 1.29, the delivery model. One of the goals is a secondary dual language coordinator, which I know we now have. And also to expand course offerings, which I know has happened also, as my son is taking Biología in Spanish at Topeka High. So that is all very good news. I'm curious about where we're at, and we could talk about this another time, but I want all to know that I'm very curious where we are at with the Spanish proficiency assessment to determine readiness for dual language at the middle school, and also with the formative and summative assessments to assess their Spanish proficiency. So like, I know my own children, I know how they're doing because of their grades, but I don't know like what level or what kind of assessments are being given specific to Spanish proficiency. Also, what the hiring and retention plan is for dual language teachers, as that's in the strategic plan. And that's it. But overall, I see a lot of progress already in just a few short years. So, and when we're done here, I'm going to stop talking because I'm going to try and make it, because tonight is Topeka High's first football game against Junction City. And my son is performing at halftime at 8:15. So we'll see if I make it. So be fast, Mr. Munoz.
Mr. Munoz.
Thank you. First off, I want to reiterate my appreciation, all of our appreciation for Nola Ford, Walmart distribution center out of Ottawa, as well as Antioch Baptist Church for supporting public schools. I think as I think I said before, difficult times create opportunities for individuals to step up and to do something special. And I know that those who receive those funds and those resources are truly appreciative of that. And so I want to just reiterate just how much I appreciate that. I also want to give thanks to our finance team, everybody who was involved with the budget and with the revenue neutral rate. All of that is a long time coming, months and months of work, of coordination to get us to a point where we have a good sense of what the next year will look like from a fiscal perspective. And as someone who serves on the finance committee, I want to send my thank you to everybody from Mr. Robbins down to Mr. Minky and everyone who worked on that. It's a hard thing to do, and we got to do it. So I'm appreciative of them. Let's take a look here. Also, related to the budget is the salary and this idea that it's one thing to say we appreciate you every day here when we're every meeting here to our teachers and to our staff, but it's another thing to back that up with our votes. And I think we've demonstrated that in a couple of different ways. You know, when it came to the hard vote, some of these difficult votes of whether we worry about the safety and take on this issue of mask and making sure everybody completes it. We voted in a way that shows and I think demonstrates we believe that that students and teachers and staff, every one of their lives is important, and we need to be as safe as possible. And when it comes to the budget and salary, I think we've demonstrated that we believe that they're an important part of our district, and we can't do anything without their help, without their support. And so I'm glad that our finance team, as we communicated and talked about, can we make something happen to show that appreciation in our budget that was demonstrated today. And so thank teachers, thank our classified staff for all that they do, and everyone in that in our schools. Let's take a look here. And last is, you know, I'm glad, Dr. Morrison, that you recognize that when somebody's here in front of us, that we want to try and demonstrate exactly what the kind of behavior that we think is appropriate. And I think that speaks volumes of you. So thank you for sort of mentioning that. It reminds me of a quote by Brene Brown that says, in order to empathize with someone's experience, you must be willing to believe them as they see it and not how you imagine their experience to be. I want everyone who signs up to speak here to know that we value their input, that the strength of a district is individuals feeling like they're welcome to be able to speak up and to share what's on their mind. And as a parent, you know, I sometimes find it difficult to breathe because I suffer from claustrophobia. And so I could imagine how this young person, probably that's in that situation, might have felt like they couldn't breathe. And so, I want to make sure that when anyone comes up here, that we try and strive to behave in a way that we think that demonstrates our best foot forward. And so, thank you for acknowledging that. I think that's important, and I think it speaks to our district. And in these difficult times, I think our district has time and again stepped up and demonstrated the foremost concern for everybody, those who we agree with and those who we don't. And it speaks volumes about our district, about our administration, teachers, and our students. So that's all I had to say.
And I'll pass this evening. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I move we go to executive session for 30 minutes. Do we have to, we don't need to? Okay.
15 minutes.
Okay, I'll make a
And
motion.
and I'm sorry, and we know some may not be able to attend, but we know we need about 15 minutes.
I'll make a motion to enter into executive session for 15 minutes.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, been moving second. Any discussion? Ready for the vote.
Vote is open. Okay. And you're in favor?
Thank you. All votes are in. Motion carries. We were gonna stay in this space, but we will recess to the next room.